And welcome everyone to Energizing Your Green and Healthy School Efforts with K.E.E.P resources and programs. You can see on the screen, well, if we advance it just a little bit. Oh, before we get started today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land and water in what is now called Wisconsin. University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point occupies the ancestral and contemporary lands of the Menominee and Ho-Chunk people. We acknowledge and honor the land, water, and people who have worked to sustain it for many generations. And please take a moment now to honor the lands in which you inhabit. Thank you. You can see on your screen the overview of our agenda today. We are flipping our regular presentation order to ensure that our guest educator, Scott Anderson, can make it to his Evansville volleyball game on time. Like many educators, Scott wears many hats, and I will let Scott introduce himself very shortly. But like I said, my name is Wendy Stelzer, and I am the Youth and Community Engagement Specialist at Wisconsin's K-12 Energy Education Program. I'll let my colleague introduce herself a little later on when she pops onto the screen. Please feel free to put your name, where you're from, or your school organization in the chat. If you want to introduce yourself, that is fantastic. So we will begin today by having you throw answers to this question in the chat, and I'll give you about 30 seconds to do so. What are the different ways that electricity can be generated? Nice. We've got moving water, solar. Fabulous. Natural gas, coal, hydro. You guys are catching almost all of them. Nuclear. There we go. You got geothermal. One more. Oh, we got a tie. Two people piping in with geothermal. And I think we have one more that you didn't mention. We'll just go to the next slide and reveal what that is. The one that you missed was wind. So these are the major sources of electricity generation that we have. I have another question for you today. What are the largest sources of electricity generation in Wisconsin? So think of the last slide and all your answers for the different ways that we generate electricity overall, and which ways do we mostly use in Wisconsin? Yes, and I can see from the chat, you all are fairly smart and wise on this subject. You are saying coal and natural gas, and that is exactly correct. So as you can see, this data that was released from the U.S. Energy Information Administration in August 2023, the numbers are always changing, but you can see the sources of electricity generation and their various percents. We are looking forward to the energy summary from 2023. We hope that these numbers change a little bit. As you can see, the total production from renewable and non-greenhouse gas producing sources is about 10%, as opposed to, if we click to the next slide, 73% where we have coal and methane producing non-renewable and produce a lot of carbon dioxide, which is a lead producer in climate change. All right. Wisconsin is moving towards renewable sources of electricity so we can reduce greenhouse gases, but there's another way to decrease greenhouse gases besides shifting resources, or besides shifting sources, rather. That other way is by decreasing our consumption of electricity. School buildings are a place where we can do that. K.E.E.P, in partnership with Focus on Energy and Resource Central, a nonprofit out of Colorado, provides schools in Wisconsin the opportunity to participate in a program called Renew Our Schools. Renew Our Schools is a 6-week energy conservation competition where students lead the way in trying to reduce their school building's energy consumption. Energy consumption is tracked by a data logger that is attached to the school's electric utility meter, and students can earn points in the competition by the percent they decrease their electricity consumption and by completing school energy actions, or SEAs, as Renew Our Schools likes to call them. Renew Our Schools is a great program and meshes very well with helping schools who are working on their Green and Healthy Schools accreditation. And we'll get kind of more into that detailed look at that towards the end of this presentation today. But like I promised, today we have Evansville High School's teacher, Scott Anderson, here, and he and his green team students enrolled in the Renew Our Schools program in the fall of 2023, and they are also currently enrolled for the fall of 2024, which is ongoing right now. Evansville High School has also filled out their Green and Healthy survey, Green and Healthy School survey. So I'm going to hand it over to Scott, who will tell you about all the inspiring energy education happenings at Evansville High School.
Thank you. Scott Anderson. I am a 19-year math teacher. I've been in Evansville 5 years. I was at Judah High School for 14. Came to education through engineering after a dozen years out in industry. So that kind of sets a lot of how we address with our green team. This is outside of a class. It's an extracurricular, typically done during our homeroom period, and where students just pick actions. We try not to get too deep into, we do things instead of talk about things. We pick a few actions and try to stay at it. And one of the big things we've done is get involved with Renew Our Schools. It's been a great stepping stone for us. The installation of the E-Gauge has been an awesome benefit for our school district, because what you measure goes down naturally. What you pay attention to just fixes itself without much effort. So real excited to talk a little bit about it, but we meet twice a week during homeroom. And then what we do is and what I like about the Renew Our Schools competition is we literally can open up the thing and say, okay, who's going to take what tasks? And students come up and they divvy themselves up. They investigate, they talk about where they're going to go. We talk about energy usage and what it looks like. What you can see there in the lower right is the E-Gauge, kind of a snapshot of the energy usage, and we'll show where we're at here in a couple of minutes. But then the students can talk about it and understand that we don't pay just for the red in a school building this size. We pay for the peaks. So we talk a lot about demand charges and whatnot, and it really gets a eye-opening experience when students start to understand that half your electric bill is for electricity you don't even use. And you can see in the upper right there, one of the great things that came out last year, and that student up there, his name's Jack. He's like, why do we need so much hallway light after we measured in the halls? And I'm like, why do we? So we literally just found a ladder and started taking out some light bulbs, working with our maintenance department, and those are still out. I was walking all the hallways, so we removed about almost 300 bulbs last year as part of the Renew Our School project. So it's been really successful. And again, it's just so nice because it's laid out for you. It is not a project where you have to think a lot. It's planned. You can see what tasks are in each week. And, our team does some other things too. And I'm sure if you take me into another slide, these are more the Renew Our School things, but the bigger things we do here too is we don't stop ourselves there. We let students tell us what we want to do. One of the big things 4 years ago is they wanted to put solar on the school. They wanted to have some green energy in the district, which we worked very hard over the course of years. What you see up there is a 32 kilowatt system up in the upper left that we got in last spring, thanks to a lot of people. But the big thing is it was just students staying at the mission. And those were put up with no school funding. And now the school reaps the reward of about $2,500 a year electrical savings. It's has shaved the peak. We're hoping it stays down. We'll see in a year, right? Because when you talk electric bills, your peak is a year pay. They find that highest 1 point every year and you pay across there. Our peak will clear very soon and we'll see what the next peak is. And then we've done the mini grant with UW Stevens Point Keep. That's been great. We had some timers come in. We timed up all our photocopiers so they didn't stay out at night. They had a lot of phantom draw, which we found through our e-gauge, which was part of the Renew Our Schools thing, and that right in the fall. And then, you know, it just opens up to other things. In the lower left, you see the e-gauge with the rings so it can measure. And that was part of the program. And there's $1,000 to help you get it installed. So that's been great too. So really the e-gauge comes at a pretty minimal cost. And then what I want to talk about a little bit, then you see in the lower left there, you see the camera taking a picture of a couple of VFDs, variable frequency drives. What happens here is students start to take an interest and you let them chase things. And we found some things with our geothermal system here at Evansville that weren't working right. And we actually used that's a camera that just takes pictures every 30 seconds, time elapsed. And we were able to track the voltage through the night. And that's a mindset I think that came out of Renew is that, well, what's it doing now? Right? What's it, you know, and I'm like, dude, I'm not coming in at 2:30 in the morning. So you got to figure this out because I already feel like I live here. And those are the type of problem solving. And again, hands-on actions, ability to manage projects, do presentations. And again, Renew Our Schools is just a great stepping stone. And it's an easy thing to do. You can integrate into a class pretty easy. It could definitely have a participation, assigned as task projects. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity to bring this into a school setting. And I'm hoping that some people see the webinar and think, well, it isn't that much work. It's less work than planning your own class. So I'll leave it at that. If anybody has any questions, in the dead center here, that's just our power plant grid, showing the power usage. We were again tracking our solar, and hopefully we'll get that posted live soon. But that's still in process. But we've had some pretty good success here, and I think a lot of it stems just from awareness, and Renew really can bring up that awareness.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh.
If anyone has any questions for Scott, now would be the time because he needs to, like I said, skedaddle and go coach his team to victory, hopefully.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, and if people have questions, they can reach out to me at my email. Maybe I can post that in the chat so it shows up on the tape here too. I am always willing to help. The hardest part sometimes is actually just getting started because you're fearful that you have to know something and you really don't. It's just, you just prep the students that they're solving the problem and you just let them take the time to solve it. And sometimes that can be tough. But at the same time, once they get started, all I do is ask questions. That's all I do. You know, that's all I do. I ask questions. Well, what are you going to do? How are we going to do this? You know, I don't provide too many answers.
Can I ask a quick question, Scott?
Sure.
How many students do you have on your green team, or have you engaged with Renew Our Schools?
We have about 35 on the team now, and about 22 are participating, taking tasks, it looks like.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. It's nice to quantify some of that.
Yeah, and that's just, we literally had I know it started Monday, but we literally we started today. So it's homecoming here too. So that definitely slowed down the start of our Renew this week.
Follow-up question. Did you face any pushback from the school administration at all, or other staff, or students, parents, whoever may have a impact?
Yeah, you gotta ignore some naysayers. I had some, on the Renew Our Schools, not much. That was pretty easy. Again, that's an easy thing. I had some naysayers on solar. You always have one or two in the community that reach out and say it's conspiracy, and I ignore nut jobs. I had an administrator tell me that there's no way you'd ever get it done. We had 4 administrators in 4 years. So not my current one, but, and I'm like, well, no harm in trying. And, I'm just a big believer that optimism wins out, right? Time is your ally. It takes a long time. That was the joke. I couldn't believe how fast we got the solar installed. It took us 4 years, starting from $0 to, but your students always have different perspective. My seniors are like, it took forever. I'm like, Yeah, well, maybe when you're 18, 4 years feels like forever, but when you're 55, 4 years doesn't feel like forever. So, but and last year we had about 13 participating. And as a team gets more successful, as these things happen, more people want to be part.
Scott, we have a question. Oh, Scott, we have a question in the chat. It says, for teachers who are watching this, who work with younger students, what ages do you feel like you could accomplish some of this with?
Well, I think you could get well down to third grade is my gut reaction, third or fourth grade. And I'm not an expert. I barely like my own kids at 10. But at the same time, the actions are pretty clear. And again, it's about thought and it's about taking action and what do they think. And, I would, you're going to get different answers. But again, you're asking students to engage and think about what's happening, and third and fourth graders have great ideas.
And I can add to that a little bit. We had the youngest we had participate were second graders. However, these second graders were partnered with a high school green team who kind of buddied up with them and helped them through some of the energy actions. And that was Chippewa Falls high school green team who kind of helped out with that. And they actually ended up winning the competition. So that was pretty amazing. So we have done it with students as young as second grade, but they had a high school buddy.
And we're thinking about doing that too, running like a middle school team so that we can have another e-gauge in a different building installed and maybe in the spring. And then having the high school team mentor a group of middle school students and see how that goes. That's kind of what our hopes here.
That sounds awesome. I bet everyone would get so much out of that.
Well, I think we should wrap up at least with Scott so he can get to his game and get his players excited and in the mindset they need to be to bring home the win tonight. So thank you, Scott, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. And again, if someone's watching this on video and wants to reach out, please, again, take that email, drop me a message. The hardest part is just taking the first step. And if you just take the first step and sign up, things get easier. And again, administrators, you get free stuff. So tell your administrators you get a free e-gauge and things get easier pretty fast.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I wanted to quickly show the environmental impact that the spring 2024 competition had. During that round of competition, 10 schools participated and they were able to reduce their electricity consumption by just over 100,000 kilowatt hours. And that is real data that was recorded by their e-gauge data logger. And then taking that data and using the EPA's greenhouse gas equivalency calculator, we can determine that this savings resulted in the prevention of over 150,000 pounds of carbon dioxide from being released into our atmosphere. That's real numbers and a real benefit to our environment. And you can put that in terms the students can relate to. That's about the amount of energy that's required to charge about 5 million cell phones. So it's quite amazing. Can you flip to the next slide? Thank you. So if you're curious about which schools in Wisconsin have participated in the past, you can check out K.E.E.P's ArcGIS map. We have about 43 schools who have participated and growing. And that's a nice little summary that shows you where all those schools are, and it gives a little blurb about their accomplishments during the competition. There's also, Heather's throwing into the chat both that ArcGIS link and also a link to the Renew Our Schools page where you can sign up for the interest form and find out more information about it. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Heather. And she's going to share a little bit more about K.E.E.P and the resources that we have for supporting green and healthy schools.
Thank you, Wendy. So yes, since we do have someone who has joined us since Zaya's original introduction, my name is Heather Phelps. I am with Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education as a student resource specialist. So I manage our KITS program and our Green Team Mini Grant program, both of which I will be talking about in just a minute. So first, just kind of giving you the lay of the land. The big program is the Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education, been around since 1990. Um, and we provide leadership and resources to advance education for sustainable human and natural communities. Now, within the center, the WCEE, we have kind of two main programs. One of them is LEAF, which does K-12 forestry education. But we are here today to talk about energy. So you will actually get to hear from LEAF and about LEAF, I believe, in the spring as part of this same webinar series. But for today, I'm going to share a bit more about K.E.E.P, which is Wisconsin's K-12 energy education program. So we want communities making informed energy decisions now and for a sustainable future. So we're actually funded by 6 of the major utility companies here in the state. And that gives us the funding we need to do our work. Just a brief introduction. You can see Wendy and I, and then several of our colleagues as well. We work all over the state, or as much as we can. If you have any great connections up in some of those northern areas, absolutely let us know. But we work with schools all over the state to provide resources and run programs. We want to make sure that everything we do is infused with values of diversity, equity, inclusion, that everything we do relates back to climate change and relates back to energy careers, so that students are aware of and prepared for that whole broad category of careers in their future. And how we do that, you can see kind of our 5 main focus areas below. The lessons, the educator engagement, the youth and community engagement, networking, and then consultation and support. So we'll dive into what that actually means. First, we have a whole variety of energy lessons. These generally fall into just 3 main buckets of energy concepts. So stuff like, how does flipping a switch turn on the light? Energy efficiency. How can you look at a building and figure out where it is being inefficient and how to make it more efficient? And then renewable energy, things like how does the tilt of a solar panel affect the energy it produces? So all of these lesson plans are free on our website. Many of them include not only the lesson plan, but also a pre-made Google slideshow that you can copy and edit for your own needs, so that you don't have to start from scratch, and you have that slideshow and the educator guide and the student guides all there ready to go. Another thing we offer, this is one of my main areas of work, is our K.E.E.P kits. These are hands-on resources that educators can borrow. We will actually ship them to you if you are not in easy driving distance of Stevens Point. Then we will ship them around the state. We will even waive shipping. So They will arrive at your door or at your school door for free. And they can be borrowed for up to 4 weeks, and then you ship them back and we send them on to the next school. So in some cases, these are built from lessons, as in, like, okay, that whole series of like 9 or 10 lessons about flipping a switch to turn on a light. Well, okay, you need your flashlights and your alligator clips and your watt meters to run those lessons. Well, we have a kit that has everything you need to run those lessons except for the chocolate chip cookies. You have to provide those yourself. Um, and then we also have other kits, like for example, our sun oven that are just really designed to give students that hands-on experience um, with the power of the sun. Um, and so it's a really great collection that means you don't have to buy that yourself for your classroom, and you don't even have to store it, which I think is a pretty good deal. And then finally, we also offer professional development. If you're looking at something like our solar tilt lessons and kits and think this looks awesome, but also like, where do you start? uh, we have we have professional development that will help with that. We go around the state to provide trainings on how to teach about energy. So if we have some that are already scheduled, and then we have others that, for example, maybe if a district wants to set up something for all the science teachers in the district, let us know. We would love to work with you and um, get something scheduled that meets your needs. Uh, so then a couple of the more direct specific programs we have are Green Team Mini Grants. This is a grant program for student groups so that they can um, uh, design and implement a project to reduce the carbon footprint of their school or the school community. So student groups can apply for like $300 to $700. That was something Evansville did. They got us printer timers. We have had a wide range of other programs or other schools doing projects around the state on all sorts of different energy and carbon footprint related topics. So we have some info sessions about these coming up next week. And then the following week, October 25th, is the deadline to submit the basic idea, so like the couple sentence version of the project, and then I'll work with the students to help them figure out the more detailed plan so they're ready to submit an actual grant application and get that experience and apply for funding. So the link for that is in the chat. Then another program we have, also with an upcoming deadline, this one Wendy is responsible for, is the Energy Educators of the Year. This is a great way to nominate yourself or another teacher or non-formal educator that you know of who really inspires people with energy. So again, nominations close October 25th, just over 2 weeks away. We would love to see who you know who is an exemplary energy educator, and let's celebrate them. So before we wrap this up, we just really want to make sure we come back to, why do we do this? Why do we care about teaching energy beyond just, okay, well, what's going to be on the test? And it really comes down to this chart from Project Drawdown. We have a lot of emissions going into the atmosphere. Not very many of them are coming back out again. And of the ones that are going in, electricity production is the largest chunk. Buildings is another pretty significant chunk. And so whatever we can do to reduce those emissions by choosing more sustainable energy choices, by working on energy efficiency and conservation, that is going to make a difference for our future and for the future of our students. Or just to give you another view of the same thing, if you're familiar with the En-ROADS climate simulator, our energy supply is a huge chunk of this. And for that matter, so are buildings and industry. This really has an impact. And so let's learn about it. Let's teach our students about it. And let's make sure we're all equipped to make smart, sustainable choices for the future. And now I will turn it back over to Wendy for just one last look at the Green and Healthy Schools Wisconsin annual survey.
Yeah, thank you, Heather, for all those wonderful resources. Well, K.E.E.P is here, as you can see, to support educators with all things energy, and we want to help you on your school's journey to becoming a green and healthy school. By participating in the Renew Our Schools program and getting other resources and educational support materials from K.E.E.P, your school will be able to answer most of the energy-related questions on the Green and Healthy Schools survey. Here are those survey questions on this slide, as well as the next slide too, that deal specifically with energy, or that you could use energy answers for, especially if you participated in the Renew Our Schools energy conservation competition. I'm not going to read through them all. I'll just highlight one on this first this first slide. One of the questions asks, in the past 12 months, how have students provided leadership in advancing green and healthy practices in your school? When you complete the Renew Our Schools program, you can confidently answer that our schools have participated in the Renew Our Schools energy conservation program. As part of that program, they have conducted a student-led energy audit of our building, monitored the school's electricity consumption through an eGauge data logger. And through these activities, the students developed an energy policy for the school and presented the policy to administrators, staff, and the student body. That is just one of the activities that you do through, or one of several of the activities actually that you do through Renew Our Schools. So that can give you a big push in the right direction of becoming, of advancing your school through the Green and Healthy Schools accreditation system. And let's just take a look at that second page. So here are some more questions that can be answered directly on the Green and Healthy Schools survey application. We've actually gone through and taken the actual document and highlighted in purple all the questions that you could answer, and Heather dropped a link to that in the chat. So if you are looking for questions about energy consumption in your school, reach out to K.E.E.P. We can help you with that. And even better, sign up to do the Renew Our Schools program. That would be fantastic. We would love to have you in the next competition. I am going to pass it back to Heather.
Sorry.
And she's going to wrap things up for us in a bit.
Yep, and I'll just mention before we leave this slide that I am the energy contact for the Green and Healthy Schools survey. So as you have questions about any of these questions, any of the other energy questions, how to line up what you've done with the questions, or what you can do to maybe get a few more questions answered next time you fill out the survey, just come talk to me, shoot me an email. We'll have all our K.E.E.P contact information at the end of the survey, end of the slideshow, and Wendy and I can also put our emails in the chat. And we would love to help answer any questions you might have with the survey as best we can. And if we can't, then we know how to direct you to for more help as well.
And sorry, Heather, I'm going to interrupt you one last time. Another like great resource, besides K.E.E.P, of course, is just your own school's facility manager, energy manager, custodial staff. They really usually have a handle on about what's going on with energy in your school building. So if you haven't introduced yourself to that custodial staff, those facility managers, please do get to know them, and they can certainly help you out on answering some of these questions about how energy is consumed and used in your school.